something that I'm
Mhm.
working on though. It's so hard, especially in this environment. So you just want to just grab $100, grab 250,
Yep.
but when you look back at it, because I was speaking about my strategy, typically if I was following my strategy, and usually it's on the 15-minute time frame, I would have gotten in around this area and been holding this trade that take, of course, we have pivot level shifts here. But usually if I'm in a buy, I kind of take my trade when, we come to this S0 area, which is support. Um, and then take it up to my R8 or, R7 kind of level, which is like a resistance kind of area when using pivot levels. And so, if I could have the patience to ride it out, it's a really
Mhm.
good strategy, even if you don't use kind of just use my pivot levels. And I just tell people if they're really struggling to stay on the right side of the market, maybe just use like an MA cross, like a 1020 MA cross. That's just like a short term EMA cross. And just getting in the market and staying in and practicing that. So, sometimes
Yeah.
that helps, making sure that, staying with that buy, staying with the sells, even when we have these crazy wick moments that kind of, well, for me anyways, kind of can confuse
Right.
that overall price movement. Yeah.
Mhm.
The tape
I know
bombs. The tape bombs are definitely they can throw you
Yeah.
through a little loop sometimes, especially depending on how tight your stops are. They can also cause you to exit a position maybe prematurely, even though
Definitely.
the overall direction still might be, let's say, up for the day, like we're at right now. JD, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No worries. I was just gonna say holding on to trades is, probably one of the more difficult things for, uh, traders to learn because it goes against all of your natural tendencies, you know? If you're in a trade and if you're in the money on a trade and it comes back and you don't wanna lose money, you just get out. You avoid the fear of having to take any risk. Uh, so it goes against our basic human nature to, like, hold on to these trades. It's uncomfortable, you know? Uh,
Very.
Good trading can be very uncomfortable. Sometimes the best trades you put on are the ones that make you the most uncomfortable. You just kinda have to learn to
Yeah.
work around it.
Now, JD, you're reading Tom Hogarth's book right now, Best Loser Wins. I think a lot of that premise that we're talking about right now is pretty much just prospect theory, right?
Mhm.
A lot of us hold on to losers for the sake of that potentially turning into either at least a break even, maybe, getting our drawdown or
Yep.
getting ourselves back out of drawdown and then taking
Admitting loss, yeah.
off the table early because the trade's uncomfortable. You're seeing your gains potentially float in an uncomfortable fashion and we're
Exactly.
tempted to exit early. That's actually a good question. So Fatima, in your opinion, in your experience, do you think that entries are more important or exits are more important?
Ah. Oh my goodness, isn't that the question? That's like the trading question of the year. Everyone wants to know. Um, to me, I think your exit is very important. But your entry, oh gosh, that's so hard, you guys. That's so
It is.
hard.
It's a
It's
tough
it's
one for sure.
it's definitely a balance there, but making sure that you don't risk. I feel like making sure you have your risk managed is more important than anything. you know you can get out of trades 5-6 points in profit, but if you let those trades run in the opposite direction, 5, 6, 700 dollars, I think that's more detrimental. So I'm going to say where you place your stop, how much you're risking. Entries are very, very entries are tricky. Entries are tricky, but I say how much you risk is more important.
Okay.
Mhm. And knowing
Yeah.
where your trade is definitely invalidated helps you pick your entry spots a lot
Oh
easier
yeah.
too.
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
thinking about it from the risk side, if you're trading in a 50K account, you don't want to lose, you don't want to risk more than $250 a trade. You want to be long, you know exactly the point where your trade is no longer valid. And you can base your entry prices off of that. So
Exactly. And
it's
so
another
I
way to go
tell
around it.
people to always kind of like mark your highs and your lows, and that kind of will help you. If you're in a buy trend and on the 15-minute price starts making a lower low and invalidates that, price isn't, still buying there. So you need to place your stops in smart areas as well, not just monetary, with price points there.
Yeah.
That's
Do
very important.
you, speaking of stops, do you have a process for permitting yourself to actually trail your stop? So when is it okay to trail? And what is your typical, is it a mechanical trail, just using pivots, either pivot points to move your stop? Like in this case, you're in a long, right? So any trailing that you do make, it's going to be maybe like potentially under support or under a swing, a swing low.
Exactly.
What does your process typically look like for trailing, and when is it okay to move your stop loss?
So I typically like to use just basic market structure. So I kind of go through my whole process on the 15-minute. That's where I set up my overall trade for the day. And, I scout my way up to, those take profit areas. And when I am in a trade, I would then go down like to the 5-minute. And let's just say if we got into this trade kind of down here, say at this point, I would be looking for, those, like you said, the support areas if I'm in a buy. So say if the market's here, my entry was at this point, I would have my stop loss below here, because if price comes below and breaks this low here, we're no longer buying, we're selling. So I don't want to be in the market. So as soon as price kind of makes a new higher low, then I feel more comfortable moving my stop. Probably once I see maybe a 15-minute candle kind of form, if I'm in the middle of a trade, I do want to just see that structure play out. And just using structure, higher lows, higher highs, kind of to place my stop loss, in conjunction with making sure that, I'm not risking. I never want to risk more than 20 points. In like a 50K account, Coach Jay had like a really good, he was I snuck into one of his little meetings there, and he was kind of going over and just telling people, don't look at these accounts as if you have it's $50,000 worth of buying power. That doesn't mean you can leverage your account, but you have to really pay attention to your max loss. Set up your trades accordingly. If you only can lose $2,000, why are you trying to get in, with 5 contracts and risking 20 points? So really looking at it, like for instance, if I'm in a 50K, my max there is going to be stop loss. Like max loss for the day is like $50. I could hit, my max loss a couple days without blowing my account. Also, you're not going to, after the third day of having those losses, you're really going to probably on that third or fourth day kind of pick up. So I like to make sure that, of course, my stop loss is like in those invalidation areas, just based on structure and not risking, more than I should. Really healthy, to have a healthy account. That makes sense.
I like it. Yeah, that's a very common approach in terms of just using that lower time frame structure. I think that's a really good logical way. If you are a price action based trader and you have, just a goal to get in and out of a position during the same session, during the same day, you're not willing to hold it into the close. Obviously, within the prop firm model, we're not able to hold positions over the close of the day anyway.
Right.
You wanted to use whatever information I have available to me in this current session, and how do I want to approach either reducing my risk, removing it, or potentially locking in some green for the day. I like it.
Yeah.
So it looks like we
And I like
are.
the 5-minute time frame and the
Do
3-minute
you?
time frame, in scalping. That really gives good, short-term structure so that you can really stay in the overall movement for that hour.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we are seeing a little bit of a pop. Nasdaq pushing a little bit more than the S&Ps currently. S&Ps last trade 5501. Nasdaq pushing the high of the session around 19,290. Seeing a little bit of a pop right now. So at this moment, knowing that we're kind of hovering, floating a little bit above your entry, would you consider, on the topic we just talked about, if we made a new high above that 5510 and we just confirmed let's say a higher low, would you be inclined to move your stop then to, let's say underneath the 5496 area?
Oh, definitely. Definitely would be moving into profit once I make a higher high then, because now we have a confirmed higher low. So I would definitely be moving into profit, not only because, we made that higher high, but just because of the area that we're in the market, where we could just have that huge flush to the upside and then that major, flush to the downside, as we saw with what was it? Was it yesterday when we had like that huge movement? And everybody's like, oh my God, we're tape bombed. And oh my gosh, we flushed. It was like I think 2 3-minute candles, both of them on the ES yesterday afternoon. They were like, one was 50 points, the other one was like 40. And then we had another like 20-minute candle all on the 3-minute time frame. It was insane. But off topic, but yeah.
All good. Speaking of off topic, so I see that you have a couple hobbies. I don't think we've really cracked into this yet with you. You like crocheting and then puzzles. What's the largest puzzle that you've completed on your own? No
Ooh.
help.
Oh my gosh, yes. Love the nerd
No help.
activities. I'm a big nerd at heart. So yes, puzzles are a good pastime for me. 750. I try
Okay.
to challenge myself and not look at the picture. So it's like a surprise at the end. I'm like, oh my
Wow.
gosh,
All
look
right.
at this.
Interesting.
Oh, that's
That's
fun.
quite the challenge, not having a
Crocheting,
That's
picture
yep.
challenging, yeah,
reference.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm a part of these little groups and people are doing like 5,000 piece puzzles and all kind of stuff. And I'm like, putting together my 500 piece puzzle. But I love to crochet, love to make baby blankets for all my friends and family. That's what I do in my
Awesome.
pastime.
So that's your gift to them upon having a new child is a little custom baby blanket.
An heirloom blanket. We fancy it up. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Funny, I still have my baby blanket to this day in storage,
Oh,
Aw.
waiting for my future children to just pass along the one that I was
Really?
given to my parents. And yeah, absolutely. My mom kept a bunch of mementos, that being the main one.
I still have mines too. Yeah. I'm surprised people actually, keep those things. But yeah,
Right. I
I
guess
love
it
it.
depends on if you're sentimental or not. Some
You
people,
sweet kids.
I don't sleep
Yeah,
with it. I
adorable.
promise. I'm in my 30s. I shouldn't be sleeping with a baby blanket. So I promise
Yeah.
it's in storage. But yeah, I'm a little more sentimental. I got that from my
I don't
mom. But
believe you, Gabe. I know it's like right there, folded up at the
yeah,
bottom of your bed. It's
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Nickname is Linus.
Linus, yeah. I love it.
Here we go, guys. We're tapping on the ceiling of new highs in the ES right now. Nice little pop there. Fatima, I'd
Yes.
like to know a little bit about your transition from Forex to futures.
Order filled.
What was that like? Did you learn any lessons moving from Forex to futures? Which do you like better? Which
Oh my
that should be the
goodness. So
question.
definitely love futures. I just started trading futures in September. So I was trading Forex since about 2019. And I'm not going to speak bad on Forex. Everybody, I'm not going to bash Forex. It got me to where I am today. But I will say that this market, I just love the structure. I love what like MP is doing with trying to get like, these prop firms really regulated and things like that, because I did come
Ooh,
from the Forex world and it's
totally
crazy.
unregulated, yeah.
Totally unregulated. You'll have a prop firm today,
Order
an
filled.
account up, it'll disappear tomorrow, can't find them. Or, we had one where it's just like, oh no, we're not taking US clients anymore. Or, you're waiting for a payout. So I do love that. It was really crazy. It taught me a lot, but I like the transparency in this market. I do love that, the price that, everybody's just looking at one price. In the Forex
Mhm.
world, you'll be looking at SPX. One broker might be 30 points difference between
Different spread,
brokers,
yep.
10
Absolutely.
point difference in spreads that, I had a trade in one account, same trade in the other. One like spread knocked me out. The other one was in profit. So insane. So I do like,
Incredible, yeah.
yeah,
How'd
the
you even get into
organization here. Yeah.
how'd you even get into Forex in the first place? Did
Oh
like
my
a friend
goodness.
tell you about it, or
So it's so crazy. We
you run
had
into a
this huge,
salesman somewhere? Yeah.
there actually was a salesman for IM Academy. We had this big MLM
Yep.
that
I
nobody
know.
knew was an
I know.
MLM. Yep, and they got me, and I was paying that $200 a month subscription. That's why I love. Everybody's complaining here, with getting an account and the fees here. But you guys, we come from a world where we were paying like 500-600. I think one challenge was like $785. So I came from that world. It was cool. Learned a lot and finally got out of that and transitioned to finding traders that were actually not trying to grab
Just get
100
three people
and
under them. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And then I was in a world where you only knew how to trade according to their indicators, and you had to
Right.
be a member to get the indicator. So, got out of that world, found out what it actually meant, found out a strategy, learned, met a group of people that were actually trading, ended up trading full time for about 2 years. And I go back in and out. I've always been working from home, like basically my whole career, kind of, for the
Mhm.
most part. And so I'll go back, have a couple contracts here and there, but I was trading full time for 2, 3 years there, just off of Forex and that knowledge. And then one of my students this summer, we were doing like a boot camp, and she was like, "You guys go look at Top Step." And one of my students introduced it and was like, "Futures." I knew about futures kind of at the very beginning of my kind of trading back in 2019, but no prop firms that I was aware of at that time. So that entry to get into, just to
Yeah.
trade, I was gonna have to risk, couple $10,000, $20,000, and I wasn't feeling that. So
Oh,
it
Wow.
was
I'm
so
sorry
nice
you
to hear. She gave good recommendations. I did my research, looked at all the competitors, came right over here and never looked back and brought everybody with me. And I'm like, you guys, now I feel like
awesome.
Forex is a scam.
Those
Like,
are the
y'all
kinds
get
of
out of
stories
there.
I like to I'm sorry that you had to go through that process, but I'm happy that you made your way over here to Top Step. That's
Yeah, it made me
what
appreciate
a
this
relief.
situation. Yeah. So we're making
we
higher highs. I would
we
definitely
are.
be
Go.
looking to move my stop into profit now. So probably above those little candles, probably at 5,500, like the even number.
Mhm.
Order filled.
So love this little drag and drop here. We're still, pushing
Order
higher.
filled.
If I had
Didn't quite make a new high. Missed it by a tick.
oh,
Stopped at
just about, huh?
55.09, but we're still right there. I think
Just
we're gonna
about, right?
pop
Sheesh.
through it in just a second.
Let's see. Yeah, I need that confirmation, huh? But I would, though, in this situation, reduce my risk. So I was risking, a
Mhm.
couple $100 before. I'd probably move it up a little bit, because if price then breaks below all of these, areas here, I'd rather
Yep.
just be out cheap, like Coach Paul taught us, be out cheap and be out early. If I was adding on to a position, if I had enough buying power, this was once price actually fully broke above this area, I would definitely have been looking to, add on to my position.
Order
Still same
filled.
take profit area. If I look at my
There's our new
pivotal
high.
zones, yeah,
Yep. New
awesome.
Put
high.
in new highs.
So if I
Nasdaq
look at
trading
my pivotal zones,
19,312. ES 5510. Go ahead, Fatima.
sorry.
All good.
If I look at my pivotal zones, yep, you knew highs. It broke. This was a high here, broke above that. But on our 1 minute chart, which, just look at it for price movement, not really to make too many
Mhm.
decisions. But once price makes a higher high, our pivotal levels, they do shift. So that gives kind of an indicator, or like a clue, like, oh, hold on, we're
Order
going
filled.
to, keep going on with this trend here. There's no reversal. I love catching those reversals. I'm a big fib girl, so I get caught up sometimes preempting those reversals. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Since you are trading multiple micro contracts, do you ever peel a couple off and leave a runner, or are you always going all in, all out kind of thing?
all in, all out.
All in,
That's
all
what
out.
I'm. Yep, all in, all out. That's what I'm kind of. Well, I don't want to say struggling with. Let's say like a new challenge now is learning how to add onto positions and take them off, because in Forex that it's totally different. We can have a
Mhm.
buy-in for the same product, a sell, different take profit areas. You could be in a sell and in a buy and in profit. How you kind of add on to those positions is totally different here. So I'm learning that. So that is fun. And that will definitely help me to hold on to positions longer, knowing that, I have more stake in that trade. So I am learning that. But for right now, all in, all out, give me my money and I'll figure it out in a couple minutes how I can get back in.
I like it. So we
I like
are
it too.
struggling to really push. We're getting a little slight break above, but not really any momentum carrying us further at the moment. Gold coming off the highs of the day, still trading around 33.46 half. Crude oil hanging around the lows of the range here at 62.74. But all in all, we're just slowly grinding up at the moment. Not a whole lot happening. Do see a couple pieces of size on the S&P specifically. We do have 273 contracts sitting at the ask 55.15, and then pretty much every 4 to 8 ticks, you got another couple hundred. So
Hmm.
then there's a 500 order or 447 contracts sitting at 55.25. So there's definitely some size above us waiting to get filled. Not a whole lot below us until we get back down to 55.01.
Seeing the same thing on the micro ladder
Order
in the
filled.
ES, stacked every 4 or 5 points, 200 lots. Something to keep an eye on. I do subscribe to the theory that it's the market's job to go find liquidity to facilitate trade. So when you see liquidity on the ladder like that, there's a natural tendency to gravitate towards it to fill those orders. Not everybody believes that. I happen to. That's one of the benefits of level 2 data. Did you just see that liquidity grab in the micros? Popped right up and came off.
So it's so funny when you guys are talking about that, because on the lower time frames, it hit like a pivot level that is a signal for resistance. So it is so eye-opening when you guys see those levels, how they correspond with, the indicators, even though, they're lagging indicators. So I do see the
Hmm.
same thing that you're seeing, a lot of resistance in those areas, but still markets pushing forward. What I do like is if we were using our Rinko charts there at the kind of 54.90 price range, we got a nice green candle, and it's been trending ever since. So that kind of gives, some, yeah. So if we would have gotten around this area here, just looking at the
Order
momentum,
filled.
our Rico charts have just been telling us, just chill out. I'm taking my time, but I'm getting there. Look at me, still just pushing past that resistance level. These are just volume filled blocks. So they just give us the overall kind of momentum within that trade, within that candlestick. So
Hmm.
I do like that we're still having those nice green candles making higher highs. It's taking its time, but it's doing it. So I like
When did
that.
you start incorporating Renkos into your process?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
I want to say I started back testing it. It hasn't been too long. So I want to
Okay.
say maybe a month or two ago. And so I had up like wrinkle charts on like the 5 minute, the 100 tick, 500 tick, and just kind of just back testing it and just looking, or sometimes live testing it just to kind of look like what's actually giving me that momentum, that clear momentum that would allow me to stay in a trade until we get a major kind of pullback. And the 3 minute kind of just allowed me. I'm like, okay, if I would have just followed what the wrinkle chart was telling me on the 3 minute, that would have given me the confidence and the validation just stay in this trade, just seeing that momentum. So just back testing. Every time I learn something new or see something different, someone's trying something, I look into it. I don't try to incorporate too many new things into my trading.
Right.
But lately, like how momentum has been so crazy, and you can get over there and like, hold on, am I still supposed to be in this buy? Am I still supposed to be in this sell? So that's definitely helped me out. Yeah.
And a question in the chat, NS asked, what's the Renko setting? I'm not too familiar with Renkos, but anything that you did to modify the Renkos at all, or is it just a typical default Renko chart?
Now in TradingView, I have not back tested the TradingView indicator. I think you can, the TradingView charts with the wrinkle charts, just using TopStep and just using default settings. I know I just typically just use the default settings for basically everything kind of.
Hmm.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
know everyone
excellent.
else is looking at those levels, looking at that price. So,
Yeah.
yep,
And Rankos are
same.
basically they're kind of like a newer version. I think of like a point and figure chart. You're looking at just pure price movement. You're sort of taking uh you're taking time and volume out of the equation and just looking at pure price action.
Yeah, and that's been so helpful in this market.
Looks like
And we
had
were
a
really struggling with that
potential,
high.
yeah, potential 3-bar reversal setting up on the 5-minute in the MES right now.
Yeah, looking at the same thing in the
All right.
Nasdaq currently.
Okay, so let's move our stop into profit.
Order filled.
Go
Now
back
we
down to the
did get a
3-minute.
closure above your little resistance zone. So knowing that there was an actual candle closure above, are you still okay? So you did move your stop into profit at this point.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm still a little
Order
weary just
filled.
because I do like to give my trade, a little bit of room there. This is really a tight stop, and I would have hate to been waiting so long in this trade for like $90.
Mhm.
But it
Order
is doing
filled.
what we said that it wanted to do. So just moving my stop into profit price. This was, I don't know, kind of hard to see. If ever you're kind of struggling with looking at or identifying those highs and lows on like the smaller time frame, you guys can always go like to the line chart, kind of looking at these peaks and valleys. So, we are making higher highs, getting into the market probably around this area, kind of really just holding this support here. So got to keep it there. Really don't
Order
want to
filled.
see price coming back, below this area here, this price point,
Mhm.
because, and then we have I always have, a higher time frame, looking at the 15-minute, looking at the hourly, just making sure that, catch those, pullbacks or those reversals, in time. But for right now, looks like it's still just making higher highs. We still have that volume. Still nervous though, you guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of just
Still no
like,
reason to get out of this trade. I still don't see a reason to get out of this trade. We do
the
just
only
keep stair stepping higher. We keep printing those new highs and printing those new highs. It just doesn't stop.
Yes,
But it's
it's just
slowing down. That's something else you have to look at. It is slowing down.
Yeah, we'll
What's
see
your
what
favorite
Power
time to
Hour
trade?
has in store.
Yeah. Do you have a time of day that's your favorite time of day to trade? Does it matter to you? Can you trade at any time? Can you look at any chart and jump in the market at
Oh
any?
my goodness. I was like one of those girls I was bell to bell. I was literally
Mhm.
just trading all day. That was just my thing. I might be doing, other things, but I could really just trade all day if I had to. Um,
I could too.
Sounds
but
like
I'm
you're
with you
hooked.
there.
yeah, you know what? That's what people say. It's like I get into that trance, like that chart trance where you're just staring at price action. It's just, but no, actually the London session. So when I was teaching
Really?
Forex, that's actually how I started teaching. I was teaching the Asian breakout strategy. We would get up at like 2, 3 a.m. Eastern. And when I tell you like that price action during that time, even for NAS gold, as they move during like 4 or 5 p.m. And it's just like a nice trend during that time. When I can get up and I get back into that mode, that's actually my favorite London session, definitely. Asian
Mhm.
London close, yeah. London open.
Yeah.
Order filled.
Random question. Do you journal? Faye in chat asked, do you journal after trades? Do you journal at all? Do you find that helpful for you if you do?
It does. It does. I do journal. That is a part of my plan. TopStep has a really cool, just
Order filled.
your emotional trading journal. I typically
Mhm.
like to
Mhm.
go into my little settings there and kind of write like my feelings for the day, especially if I had like
Order
an
filled.
emotional day. I've had days where like I was up 1,500, down 1,500, got it back. And at the end of the day, you're just like drained. And so, going to that journal, kind of just notating, hey, tomorrow, remember, you're not doing this. And, things like that, that does help. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's a task, but really it's kind of like you want to analyze your performance. You guys I'm always learning like guy talk here and all these guy facts. And you guys are talking about like all these skiing and billiards, metaphors. But
Order
pro
filled.
athletes, they go over their footage, after the game. It helps them out.
Yep.
So
Watch the
we're trying
tape.
to make pro athlete money,
Absolutely.
so we got to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're approaching these highs again. We'll see if we can get a little move here before the end of this segment. I know we are coming to a close. We got about 7 or so minutes. I know we have jab, jab, jab to get through here as well once Eddie is ready. So just a minute ago, you did mention that just like myself, I find myself sometimes being too locked in the charts for too long. Do you kind of have like a trigger for yourself? Like, do you know when you're exhausted, like mentally exhausted from trading, or when you're kind of ready to tap out? Is there something specific that pops up? Is it something that's in your trading? Is it just eye strain? Like, when is when's your trigger to say, okay, it's time to get off?
Eye strain. Thank you for reminding me. I was wondering why I couldn't see here. So I really figured when I get to a certain price. When I get to a certain price point. So I know usually when, that's why I like to set those goals. So after I make about 1,500, if I'm able to, have a really good day like that, pushing it past that, like I did yesterday, it was really good. But yesterday was crazy. Actually, I'm so glad that I actually pulled, forward in that market. But I actually did something so crazy and, pulled out a trade in the ES instead of the MES. And had to get that back. But so learning just after I get to my goal, just stop. I like that lockout button. I have it just totally locking me out because I've noticed that, okay, after I've kind of caught over 100 pips in this market, I'm done. And then Coach Jay did say something in his VIP one time, and he was just like, sometimes we're self-sabotaging our combine. Sometimes we're just so tired and we're like, oh my God, I'm just doing this. It's the third day. And we actually, I've noticed to check myself when I do feel like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm still in this thing. I haven't reached my goal. And I just hit that lockout button. Whenever I feel frustrated, whenever I have revenge trading, I just don't want to self-sabotage my account. I didn't even realize I was doing that until he, kind of told us, you guys, check this out. If you guys are doing this, that's probably why, you're just tired. So whenever I feel angry or frustrated, I have to go take a walk or I just lock myself out because that does happen. Just trying to just overextend myself in the markets.
Yeah. Absolutely. We did finally break above and made a new high here, 55.13.